Well, Plato talked about democracy. In Plato's Republic, which is very good reading for anybody interested in reality and the problems that reality promulgates, Plato goes through different types of political institutions and why they're doomed to fail. And what I find good reading for me is when he finally gets to democracy, and freedom, therefore, as a type of a political institution that should, most people would say, hey, we are living in it, and this republic of democracy, democratic, what's wrong with that? Nothing, except what Plato points out, where there should be caution. And what he says briefly, he says a lot, but what I think says a lot in a short amount of time is where he starts to point out that when you place freedom in a democracy above all else, individual freedoms, what happens is you will have different groups pulling the financial and intellectual and artistic and you name it resources to their own selves. Each individual group wants their own version of rights and privileges and freedoms, and there's only so much cash to go around, so much resources to go around, and so there becomes, rather than unifying a republic, it divides it. Each individual group or groups of people want their own rights and privileges, and instead of joining together, they're pulling apart. That's kind of a crude summary of what Plato talks about in his Republic concerning that type of a government and why it won't work. And what's interesting to me is, wow, he wrote it a long time ago, and wow, it is still true today. You see it happening. That's why, if our Constitution was followed the way it was written, which automatically tells me that the Supreme Court has let the ball down to begin with. They haven't abode by the entire Constitution, just whatever they read, which apparently they didn't read the preamble, because the preamble clearly states that the purpose of the Constitution and the interpretation of the laws, therefore, by implication, should be to promote the general welfare. It's interesting our forefathers wrote that to promote the general welfare of the people. It's part of the preamble. It doesn't say specific interest groups, which is what we have going on today. Because, our country and the laws provided are based upon reason. That's why even in a capital murder trial, which is the most serious crime of all, it says you're innocent until proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So our country is based on reason, and it's reasonable in the beginning when the Constitution was written by the forefathers to understand intuitively that you can't promote specific interest groups. You have to promote the general welfare, and for the good of all, not for the good of specific interest groups. And what you see in America today are specific interest groups yanking resources in their own directions, and there's no unification. There's just a fracturing of the country. The solution is get real and get honest and understand it's not a joke. Things can't continue the way they are. They just can't. And